And we're live. How's it going, everybody? It's your boy Wardy, and we're back at it with the latest edition of the latest Mets news and rumors live show here on WardyNYM, the number one source for all your Mets coverage, news, rumors, breaking news topics, post-game shows, everything in between is what we've been doing here over the past couple years as your number one source. And again, we have been the largest platform not directly affiliated with the Mets or SNY here on YouTube, and I have all of you amazing Mets fans to thank, and there isn't a day that I don't wake up truly humble and grateful to be in the position that I'm in. I'm very grateful to get into tonight's discussion because we have a plethora of topics headlined by, yes, Carlos Mendoza officially introduced as Mets manager. And when I tell you that I have a lot to say on what was nothing short of truly an impressive presser and has me excited as a fan for what is hopefully to come for the 2024 season and beyond, I mean, that's an understatement. We have a lot to get into in Mendoza and what were his biggest quotes of the day. Really, how's he shaping up as a coach? What will he be looking for his coaching staff, which very well could be, yes, Willie Randolph, that we're also about to get into shortly. Randolph and Mets reunion a couple decades later, is that possible? It very well could be. We have a lot to get into on that. We also have plenty new updates, not only on Mendoza from his presser day, but also key updates on Yamamoto, Shohei Ohtani, and plenty of other things in between. But before I get further into the live show, before I start to answer your live comments, thank you all so much for being in here. My great members, as always, and Michael, Dave, Dominic, how you guys doing? Everyone watching live on a replay, thank you all so much. Continue, make sure you smash that like and subscribe button if you enjoy this kind of consistent Mets coverage as we're breaking down all the latest all off season long here in Mets land. But before I go further into the show, I do just want to have a moment of silence for Peter Seidler, the notorious owner of the San Diego Padres, has unfortunately passed away today at the young age of 63. Seidler was not only a fantastic humanitarian and did so much for the community of San Diego, but drastically changed the direction of what it meant to be a San Diego Padre. He put a small market team on the map and has spent oodles amount of money over the past couple of years, and now you can understand a little bit more as to why, knowing that he certainly wanted to see a championship before he passed. And I feel terrible about what has happened here with Seidler, his family, and everyone involved in the Padres organization, again, is an understatement as well. Truly a phenomenal human being that I have nothing but amazing things to say about from all I know, and I know everyone that has had a great rapport and relationships with him over the years has spoken nothing of glowing things about Peter Seidler. So for the next couple seconds, we're going to do a moment of silence because it's beyond deserved. Peter Seidler, may you rest in peace. Unfortunately passes away today at the age of 63. Okay. Thank you guys. Appreciate that. I know that's not like we're actively talking, just me talking to the camera while you all are watching, but I really just wanted to do that because when we found out that news today, there were rumblings of health concerns I've heard over the past number of weeks regarding Seidler through the tea leaves. However, I did not expect us to find out this tragic news this soon, mind you. As you can see from Seidler's latest pressers up until he was out of the public eye, he certainly did not look nearly as strong and was very frail, and unfortunately, I'm sure had another battle with cancer as he's a two-time cancer survivor. Regardless, just sending my deepest condolences and prayers to the entire Seidler family and everyone impacted by this tremendous loss. And now, what does this mean for the Padres this offseason and ultimately their future as a club? That is a great question that we will discuss at further length later on this offseason, and if there's any potential partnership between the Padres and Mets when evaluating deals, Juan Soto being the big name, but I do not want to dive in that in tonight's show. It really just feels wrong to do so. So just want to share my condolences again with Seidler and the entire family, everyone involved there. But now let's get into the show. Okay, so we start off with a really unfortunate thing, but now let's get into different topics here. What are we talking about is, of course, Carlos Mendoza and his latest presser, his first presser, actually, as a New York Metropolitan manager. And might I say, there were a lot of key quotes I'm going to share with you guys here shortly, but right away, right off the riff, wow, truly wow. Never in a million years would I would have thought that I would have found myself emotional watching a presser for a managerial hire. Yet here I am because Carlos Mendoza really knows how to hit those heartstrings. And if you guys were watching that thing live, then you probably felt the exact same way. While on-field product is, of course, the most important thing as how we're going to be judging and evaluating Carlos Mendoza throughout the 2024 season and beyond, one thing is certain, he absolutely nailed this presser, and I don't think he could have done a better job. As fans, I don't think we could have asked for much more when it came to the type of responses he had to every single question, but also the selflessness, the how personal he is, the uber amount of confidence he has, not only in being Mets manager, but knowing that the Mets have him. Like, he made it abundantly clear that this isn't about just him, being unbelievably grateful for this job, and he is. As he said himself, it's a dream come true. But he made it known that this is not only a great opportunity for the New York, for Carlos Mendoza, but it's also a great opportunity for the New York Mets. That is probably my favorite quote that I found from Mendoza today while watching his live presser on SNY with David Stern's new president of baseball operations. Just really, really impressed me with how he went about himself today. Night and day difference versus Craig Counsell's first presser that we saw with the Chicago Cubs. And this is not to slight Counsell by any stretch. I still firmly believe that he's going to do great things with Chicago. But we're basing things just on media aspect in that introduction. Man, oh man, I mean, it really was a night and day difference. And I'm curious to see how Counsell's going to go about just the Chicago media, because while it's nowhere near what New York is, it's certainly another level from Milwaukee. So I'm going to expand on that a little bit further here in the show. But rest assured, Carlos Mendoza definitely had a lot of fans, including myself, feeling pretty good after seeing his presser today. So now let's get into what exactly happened, right? So as many of you watched, I know you're probably like, okay, we don't have to repeat everything. You're right. I just want to get over a couple key things on Mendoza that really stood out to me. And I want to know for you fans, if you felt the same or if you felt different. And of course, we have roughly 300 people in here. Thank you all so much for chiming in. Continue to smash that like and subscribe button as we're breaking down all the latest in Mets land, as we have our first 2 live shows already this offseason. We have done have been tremendous success, and this will be a recurring thing every couple days, if not daily, based on the latest news and rumors. How amplified do they become over time? Things of that nature. So we have Mendoza as the first topic of discussion. Then from Mendoza, we will get into all the other news, because I have 2 graphics set up for today's live show, just in case you were wondering. I see Michael, great member, Edward, William, Tim, my man, how you guys doing? Yoshima, all you guys watching live on a replay, happy to have you BDs all in here. But let's talk with the zero filter. Spoke from the heart. What stood out to me about Carlos Mendoza right away, he went on what felt like at least 5 to 10 minutes of him just thanking every single one in his family that helped him get to this point. Going back to 30 years ago when he was first introduced to baseball and his wanting to pursue a career in the game, to then eventually not only the support that his wife gave him as someone who dropped trying to be, if I'm not mistaken, she wanted to be a dentist, I think, when they were staying in Venezuela, to dropping that to his kids and the type of impact that they've had. And of course, people, coaching staff alike, everyone involved in his life, he really is paid homage to. And don't get me wrong, I know that everyone does that when they were first hired, but there's something to be said about Mendoza about how he went about it. Did not hold anything back whatsoever, made sure to basically give everyone their props and then some. Truly a selfless and humble human being that took me quite a bit by surprise. Not that I didn't think he would be this person, but truly just because I didn't know much about Carlos Mendoza. Not a lot of people know much about Carlos Mendoza, aside from people in the Yankees organization, which he spent the past 6 years with, plus in their org as bench boss, and then prior to that, of course, in the minor leagues. He's had extensive experience there on that front too, but we didn't know too much about Carlos heading into this presser, which is why all of us fans have been glued on and locked on that happening. And now that we witnessed it first happen, I got to say, I came out very happy with what he had to say. And the confidence in his abilities with the New York Mets, as I just emphasized. That quote about him saying, this is a great opportunity as well for the New York Mets really stands out to me. And there's a heavy emphasis on culture here. Carlos Mendoza, when you've heard through the tea leaves of people in the Yankees organization and across baseball as a whole, that Mendoza would inevitably be a manager, whether it be with the Mets or potentially even 100% the Brewers would have interviewed him. And he may have likely got that job there in Milwaukee if they had interest in not wanting to stay internal there with Murphy. Mendoza was always going to be with the new club, it felt like, sooner than later. And it's awesome to see the Mets give him this opportunity, one, but two, his emphasis on culture, which is so vitally important. Every single year, we talk about, as fans and we witness as managers, the cultural aspect of the game of baseball. What's happening both on and off the field, in the clubhouse, out the clubhouse. Even outside that, just having these respective relationships with the players from the coaching staff is imperative. And making sure you're not only in unison, but are able to not only making sure you're having focus on having a winning culture, but being fun at the same time is something that he certainly emphasized that stood out to me as well. And to expand on this a little bit further on just how much culture means to him, this is the quote that certainly was appealing to many fans as well. And I quote, "I want to know what they were all about. Culture, people, relationships, preparation. I felt a connection right away." Carlos Mendoza responded when discussing how the interview process went with David Stearns. He said, while it was intense, the entire process, it was certainly an exciting one. And he said, don't get it twisted. I know that this is an interview process where you're interviewing me, speaking on David Stearns' behalf, but I was interviewing him and his entire brass, everyone involved that I spoke with. I had a plethora of questions, which had to do with the culture, the people, the relationships, and everything in between. This is not just something where, of course, I would love the opportunity. I'm not just going to accept it right away. However, I need to know that this is the right fit for me and what I want for my future as well. So I like the fact that Mendoza made it known that this isn't a completely lopsided thing where, okay, he gets the interview and he's being a yes man right away. Because we, of course, including myself, openly said, I do think to an extent Carlos Mendoza is going to be exactly that. But what makes a yes man aspect maybe not so much a bad thing is when you have David Stearns as your president of baseball operations, a guy that we have a lot of trust in, or at least a lot of hope in, to make the proper decisions both on and off the field for this club. And Mendoza also showed a backbone that we saw in this presser. He's a guy that is most certainly going to be involved in constant dialogue and discussion with David Stearns and everyone else, of course, that'll be in his coaching staff and from the front office, the top down. It's very important to have not only these relationships, but this open dialogue, and also being willing to push back if, say, there are disagreements. David Stearns said himself he's completely on board with that being the case when it is needed, and he said he even encourages that to be the case because it's so important to have more baseball minds than just yourself thinking that, your decisions are the end all be all. You want to hear different perspectives, certainly ones that maybe are a little bit more eye-opening, or maybe say, hey, you know what? This seems like it might be the better fit. So thank you, Carlos, for this conversation. We're going to go with this route instead. Or Mendoza will say, David, great idea. Let's go with this. Let's go forward. You want to have that respective relationship with each other, but you also want to make sure there's a fine line between being a complete yes man and knowing when to step up, make the proper decisions, have a backbone. I saw that quite a bit with Mendoza today. And that too, for me at least as a fan, was exciting. To expand a little bit further though, it's understanding the New York market, right? What does that mean? Well, as we mentioned already, he has been the bench boss for the Yanks over the past 4 years. He's been in the organization for the past 6 years, right? He has been in New York for the past 6 years. And he said it himself, Carlos, he completely understands New York, what it brings. Not only just the fact that you're in New York, and this is, of course, NYC in a lot of ways. It's a very exciting thing, huge market, huge media, huge fan base, understands the expectations, understands how to handle them. And David said it himself best post-presser today when speaking, I think, with Steve Gelbs of SNY. Shout out to you, Steve, saying that what really stood out about Carlos in a certain way is his unique advantage and ability to understand and grasp this market for this role. This is not a job that any Joe Schmo can come into, even if they have all the backing behind, even if they have the best credentials on paper, a great track record of success. If they can't handle New York, if they can't handle the pressure, the media, let alone the fan base, then, they're not going to have a fun time. It's going to be a quick time before their Tuckus gets out of here, out of Flushing. So Carlos Mendoza understands that aspect of what it means to be a manager in New York. And he, of course, managed 24 games over the past couple of years for the New York Yankees and filling in for the absence of Aaron Boone for one or multiple reasons. So when you fast forward now to Mendoza and this opportunity given to him, you really have to be excited about how this dynamic can be quite different than years past. When asked about even, someone asked him, has he spoken to Luis Rojas? He said, as soon as I was getting the interview, I spoke to him right away. And before Mets fans freak out and say, no, don't take advice from Rojas, he, of course, just wanted to hear, just general advice. What was it like for him managing in New York? Just some things to share, some expectations, just so he can kind of, get, his feet under him and understand kind of what to expect heading into this thing. Albeit Rojas, when he was manager, was a different front office, a different situation at the time versus what is now with David Stearns. But just a lot of things that definitely stood out to me as a fan. And a big one, too, is the guys that have helped pave the way for Carlos Mendoza. We're not talking about family or talking about people that he's worked with. We're talking about Thompson, who, of course, is the head coach, the manager of the Philadelphia Phillies, also a previous bench boss for the Yankees that has had great success since then now in the Phillies organization. Dusty Baker and Willie Randolph are all people that he has said has shaped him and his coaching style to a degree. He has spoken glowingly of Thompson and Dusty, who, of course, just retired. But Randolph is the interesting one because he singled out him specifically. And when asked if Randolph would be considered for a not a managerial role, for a coaching role like bench boss, he went on to say, basically love the guy. There's so many things I appreciate about him. I've learned so much about him over the years, and basically that he wasn't going to fully answer that question because you're not going to see Mendoza or Stearns give any type of true hint aside from having a smile on their face when discussing someone if they're actively trying to pursue them for any type of coaching hire, just for obvious reasons. You just don't do that type of thing, right? But Willie found out about this rather quickly and answered this through the New York Post. And in case you're unfamiliar, in case you're a younger fan as well, don't get me wrong, I'm younger too, but I do know who Willie Randolph is. He was Mets manager from 2005 to 2008. Of course, they had some nice runs in the year, highlighted by that 2006 Mets team that was unbelievably talented, to say the least. Randolph, a lot of Mets fans, including myself, believe that he was dealt a bad hand, as he was parted with, if I'm not mistaken, around like 3 a.m. in the morning when the Wilpons decided to drop him. And that was a Wilponsian regime that was quite the opposite of what Steve Cohen ran Mets are now. But Randolph, again, in response to Carlos Mendoza saying, how much, he respects him and views all these things, Mendoza said he is somebody that I respect and I have a lot of respect here. I consider him a friend. And then when Willie responds, this is what Willie had to say. I just want to make sure I have the exact quote here. Mendoza also did not dismiss the possibility of Randolph being enlisted as a bench coach, saying Tuesday, and I quote, "We have a really good relationship, and I consider him not only as a mentor, but a friend. There's a bunch of names that we're considering right now, and we'll see where it goes." I do want to just see Willie and his response here. So give me 1 second, everybody. I can't seem to... I just had it. I don't understand. Where did it go? Okay. Either way, I have it on my phone, so it's fine. Apologies, guys. Okay. Randolph responded after speaking to the New York Post the following. "All I said to Mendoza was to do whatever you need to do. Get your family in New York, get yourself comfortable, and know in the back of your mind, if you need me, I'm here for you." So, positive discourse between both of them. Whether Willie will become the Mets' next bench boss or not has yet to be seen. But I do have a question for everyone watching the live show live on a replay. How do you feel about the Mets bringing in the Grizzle vet and Willie now at the age of 70, basically 2 decades removed from the last time he coached for the New York Metropolitans? This would be a bench role, meaning he would pretty much just be a mentor type there for Carlos Mendoza, a guy that he has a great rapport with, has known for a long period of time, but more than anything, someone that just has that comfortability, the familiarity. Willie, who had plenty of success during his time as manager with the Mets, understands the New York market plenty, understands what it's like to be not only, a part of the New York Mets, but to be a key part of it as manager there for the numbers of years while he was there in Queens over the past couple decades. So I would be very open with this idea. However, I do understand why people might not love this, because Willie has not coached with the team, has not been a part of an organization since around 2011. So it's been a bit since Willie has been active in the game of baseball to the degree that he was back in 2011. But there's also something to be said about the type of role that he would have here with the Mets as bench boss. And no, this is not a hire that you make as a potential heir apparent to Carlos Mendoza. The Mendoza hire is strictly a hire that you hope can be your long-term manager going forward. A bench boss hire is not a guy that's supposed to be the next man up by any stretch in the situation, and would certainly not be the case here with Willie Randolph. But again, I want to know how you guys feel watching live and on replay, if you're in favor or against a potential Willie Randolph reunion, if this is something that you think makes sense for the Mets. Because again, if the Mets really want to prioritize having a veteran back there as their bench boss for a manager that has very little managerial experience at the MLB level, that makes plenty of sense as is. That's why we've heard names, whether it be Gabe Kapler and Phil Nevin, just to name a few that have been recently thrown out there over the past couple weeks as potential fits for this role. But now Willie thrown in this mix could make sense. It could make a lot of sense for this team. And truly, as someone who knows that Willie was dealt a bad hand and how he was parted with, I would like to kind of see that patch up if possible. And I know it's easy for us Mets fans to really get cooped up with the idea of wanting someone just because they were already a Met and had success here. So pushing those biases aside, there is still plenty on Willie's resume that would be intriguing for me as a fan if I was not a Mets fan and viewed this situation. So that is what I will leave you with on the Willie Randolph front for now, but definitely a situation to follow, as we may very well already know where their next bench boss is going to be. Nothing's guaranteed. This may lead to nothing, but it is important to acknowledge it, as this has been quite the talk since the presser happened with Carlos Mendoza today. Pet Mets, thank you so much for a $20 donation. Pet Mets, thank you also. I know that you donated 2 streams ago, and I did not answer your donation in time before I ended the show. So I sincerely apologize for that. I think it was a $20 donation back then too. And thank you so much for this as well. Really, really appreciate it. But Pet Mets, I believe it would be a good move by the Mets to bring Randolph back as bench coach. Surprised he has not managed again since the Mets, and it would be nice to see him back in the dugout. I agree. And I think when it comes to having a new manager a guy that has very little managerial experience at the MLB level, it's imperative to bring in that type of veteran leadership in a way, in that coaching staff. And Willie would certainly fit that bill and then some, should he be brought in under Mendoza as part of this new coaching staff. Of course, to what we know to this point, yes, we are going to have Jeremy Hefner back as pitching coach, but Eric Chavez, I'd imagine, is done in the organization as well, given the fact that the Mets are going to be pursuing someone else for the bench role. Until proven otherwise, I'm assuming that his time in Queens has come to an end. But I do want to get to some comments here before I advance further into the show, because the Randolph discussion is a really interesting one, because I did not expect to be talking about Willie Randolph today. We had the live show set, was playing on, I set this actually 2 days ago when I said, okay, we're going live on Tuesday for our first stream of the week. And I did not think I would be talking about Willie Randolph anytime soon, yet here we are. And I know that there's kind of an up and down debate on if you're in favor or against something like that. But for a Mets team here that definitely wants to do right by Mendoza, and for Mendoza to get the most comfortable situation possible, Willie might be that. And whatever they end up deciding with, I'm going to be excited and interested to see how they're going to perform together with Carlos. William, great member. How you doing, my friend? Willie's an infield coordinator for the Yankees. He is an infield coordinator for the... Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for telling me that. There you go. So he has still been active with organizations. That's important. Yeah, not bothered. All right, Willie is is he currently an infield coordinator for the Yankees? That would make a lot of sense, actually, if that's the case, given his relationship with Mendoza. And I do want to get on to one more thing regarding Yankees and their current connection with Mendoza, and speaking glowingly of him. I'll get into that in a second. Major Eddie, what's up, my man Charles? Here's my concern. He's getting paid peanuts. I understand why, but that makes me wonder who's really handy in the lineup card on game day. Just saying, Major, I wouldn't worry as much about the money, because Buck Showalter got like a record-breaking deal, kind of, or close to, when he signed with the Mets, because of all the past success he's had. This is a first-time manager. You're not going to give them a crazy payday to begin with. So I think what the Mets paid him is very much on par with what you give a first-time manager. So I'm not really concerned about that pay aspect, but it is an interesting element that you bring up in this discussion that I haven't really thought about too much. So if it's a fair question, and again, Charles, hope you're doing well, my man. Thank you so much again for your beyond generous gift that you sent my way, which I absolutely love. Cannot say enough great things about the 25th anniversary of the 1969 Mets poster. So sick. Thank you so much again. But let's talk about Mr. October, Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson over the past week went on Twitter and said the following. Let's check it out right now. To the Mets and Steve Cohen, you have hired a great person, baseball man, and manager to be. I've known Carlos 25 plus years while with the Yankees, and he's going forward, he said, good you, my friend. I still have the Yanks in me, but they have let two great baseball men leave, and Rob Thompson, and now you, Carlos Mendoza. So to basically get the sign of approval, or if we want to speak in S&Y terms right now, the zeal of approval, shout out to you, Todd. Getting that from Mr. October, Reggie Jackson, about the man that you just hired for manager is a really good thing. And from everyone in the Yanks organization, both currently and have been in the past, I've spoken about Carlos, have truly said nothing but great things. And I've even heard remarks to the point of kind of like, why did the Yanks allow this to happen? Well, the reality is the Yanks, Cashman and Boone, just have a connection that is not going to be broken up with yet. And because of this reason, it has allowed the Yanks to part ways with some guys that maybe could hurt in the end. Thompson certainly has not looked good since they parted with him. And this could be a 2.0 situation here with Mendoza. So to get that from Reggie, not going to complain whatsoever. Thank you so much. And man, oh man, it feels good to hire someone. And there's this universal understanding. I mean, aside from the fact that the guy has limited managerial experience at the MLB level, aside from that, there's no negativity I'm hearing right now, which is very interesting when you consider a new hire in New York after not landing a name that you were long connected with in Craig Counsell, and that there's still so much positivity around. And add on top of that, a little cherry on top, Mendoza's presser was so impressive to me today, truly, that I think it really turned a lot of fans around and either felt, pessimistic about it, didn't like the hire. All it takes is just to hear from the guy himself and kind of his philosophy and how he goes about not only his coaching, but of course just his way of life to kind of make you have a different perspective. And more importantly, we just don't know much about the guy. That's the biggest emphasis here. We simply don't know. So while it's awesome to hear all these things about Carlos Mendoza and what looks like it very well could be a great hire, we still have a lot to find out on Mendoza and what he's going to bring to this coaching staff. What type of decisions is he going to make? How aggressive is he going to be? How adamant is he going to be? Is he going to have a fire under his his ass and actually be willing to get out of the dugout when need be, when your team gets drilled multiple times in a game and a record is set for the amount of times your team is hit in a regular season and you do nothing with it. Those little things make a difference, and I'm really excited to see the type of character that he's going to show here. Also, speaking a little bit further about Mendoza, he did speak with the core four. Edwin Diaz, Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor. Shout out to you, Frankie, on your 30th birthday today, you absolute beauty. And, of course, Pete Alonso. And he emphasized that Alonso felt like I was talking to him for 45 minutes. We could have went much longer all day. It felt like great conversation with Pete. He said great conversations with everyone involved. So he went to the four horsemen, if you will, the key parts of this Mets organization, spoke to them first, had great discussions, and that's good, especially with the Pete Alonso front, because Pete, we're going to be talking about extensions all offseason long. What's the future of him in this Mets organization? And if him and Mendoza build this relationship next year as well, regardless on what his contract status is heading into the season, it definitely wouldn't hurt to have a positive relationship there. This is the same Pete Alonso that was crying when Buck Showalter was also parted with just over the past couple months. And there was rumblings to believe that he was even going to go out of his way to bang on the front office door, basically, if it wasn't for people holding him back. Now, how accurate is that? I cannot speak on that, so I'm not going to sit here and say that, oh my goodness, that's 100% certain. But we did see some reporting and rumblings of that happening. So same way that we saw Alonso be very upset after losing Chili Davis as hitting coach not long into the 2021 season. You know, Pete's a very emotional guy, and he cares about the people that he works with, especially guys that he feels help impact his game positively, and that was certainly the case with those people. So this Mendoza hire is going to be interesting to see how that dynamic is, but you can just tell that Carlos gets along with everyone really, really well. Anthony Volpe, Yanks shortstop, when discussing what it was like being with Mendoza in his rookie year, just spoke glowing things about him, definitely going to miss him, and said that Mendoza was the one really the driver in all of our meetings when going over everything. So he's not only had that great rapport in the clubhouse with the players, but also has that mutual respect amongst them when it comes to being grinding, getting your work done, and knowing what you need to do. Another emphasis I really want to share with you all with Mendoza was him saying that, yes, while we need to come in here and we need to do all we can, of course, to get wins and have a championship pedigree, we also need to have fun at the same time. And no, we're not talking about fun in the sense of, okay, we're not going to care, we're going to be too loose. You know, we're talking about a balance. Teams that are exciting, fun to watch because they're clearly having fun on the field, like the Atlanta Braves, like the Houston Astros, like so-and-so, right? So many teams not only play great, but look great, have fun, are always bubbly and smiling. This Mets team, yes, they've had those moments, but it's kind of been up and down that we've seen for a number of years now. It'd be nice if they can build a culture here where there's kind of that understanding where everyone's not only on board, but everyone just gets it. Like, they're having fun, they're playing loose, and that's what's keeping them going, not having them press too much. Because what did the Mets prove to us in 2023? They pressed like a mofo. They couldn't handle the lights. They were literally Trump out here saying, no, turn off the lights, if you know that meme, right? That is literally what it felt like the Mets were this season. When they had World Series aspirations entering the season, they crumbled before the year truly even began. They couldn't handle that pressure, that workload, right? It's a lot to be handling in New York media and the fan base, not only for a coach, but also for players. So if Mendoza is able to bring an element now that can have the guys feeling a little bit more loose, fun, but being successful at the same time, then that, in my opinion, will be a recipe for success. And as Stern said it himself, it looks like this is the right hire. And when asked about Craig Counsell, he said, happy for Craig, we're great friends, all these things, but I really want to turn things to, making our right hire here in Carlos Mendoza. So now let's get into the second part of today's show, which is separate from Carlos Mendoza, but all the other latest Mets news and rumors. But before I get there, as we're about at the halfway mark of the show, or a little over, I do want to thank you all so much for first chiming in. Continue smashing that like and subscribe on. Greatly appreciate everybody. Thank you in advance. Always happy to be talking shop, all things Mets for you guys. It's my favorite time of year in the off season. Just all the build up. We have so much that's going to be going on. Consistent content. If you haven't checked out yesterday's video on the Mets top 5 free agent targets, please make sure you do so, along with 5 Mets who will not return for the 2024 season, as we'll probably find out the result of some of those players we discussed a couple of days ago by Friday, which is the tender deadline for guys like Daniel Vogelbach, Luis Gourmet, and DJ Stewart, to name a few. What about our third base coach? Do we have any info about that? Not yet, Carlos. Premature. It looks like they're focusing on bench boss first, then they'll figure out third, and then Wayne Kirby. I'm not sure if he's coming back at first base or not because he's on an expiring contract. So that it might just need to be a whole new coaching staff aside from Hefner. Yes, I did see his agent's comments on the Yanks. We'll get to that shortly. That is part of the discussion today. We lost Pat Murphy. Yes, we did. We'll talk about that too. Trust me, I have plenty to say on it. I really do. I really like the new manager. As far as his interviews so far, so good. I really like his attitude, his enthusiasm, and energy. LMGM, happy to have you in your RP. Thank you so much. And LFGM, indeed, brother, happy to have you as always. How's it going, Harrison? You beauty. Everyone else, thank you guys so much for chiming in live on our replay. But now let's get into the other topics that we have on the hand tonight, and also, guys, continue to let me know in the chat, how are you feeling about the Mets hire of Carlos Mendoza here? How are you feeling? Initial impressions after his presser today? And two, would you be in favor or against a Willie Randolph reunion? But this time, not with a manager, but with the bench boss. Okay. Other news. We talked about Peter Seidler. Just a couple more things I want to share on that front. This changes a lot. And the Padres have known this about Seidler's health. They have kept this in-house. Definitely a great job, the best to their ability. But so many questions lie in San Diego now. And I'm thinking about my man Borna, who's the face of Padres YouTube at Hogwatch. Please make sure to subscribe to him. He's not only one of my closest friends in this community and a guy that I work with, both, on and off camera, but someone that really is left with a lot of questions as well as a diehard Padres fan. Now that Seidler is gone, you don't have a manager. AJ Preller is basically controlling everything at the moment. Is that a good thing? How much blame should Preller have for the lack of success in recent years and the overspending? If the spending wasn't warranted, it was the spending right or not? How much of that was Seidler saying, hey, I really want this guy. Just go throw out the dough, do whatever it takes to land him. I'm not going to be here too much longer, and I really want to see us win a championship before I pass. Heartbreaking and beyond unfortunate that did not happen for Seidler. But now just a lot of questions lie in San Diego that I'm really interested to see what those answers are going to be. And it's definitely something that we will be talking thoroughly of throughout the offseason, especially with anything pertaining to the Mets, like a Juan Soto, for example. But Mets prospect Alex Ramirez, who entering this season was looking like one of the Mets' top outfield prospects, if not their best outfield prospect. However, is not even a top 10 prospect, is well out of the MLB's top 100, had around a 620 or so OPS this year in single A. Just not a good year at all for Alex Ramirez. But while the Mets need to find out by 6 p.m. today who they would like to have available or on their roster for the Rule 5 draft on December 6th, they came to the conclusion that while Alex had a mighty amount of struggles this year in the minors, we still believe in him to a degree, and we're going to put him on the 40-man. So the Mets are leaving, some pitchers available. The most notable name is Justin Jarvis, who the Mets acquired in that Mark Canha trade. Nothing really more to see there, just a minor league pitcher that would give you innings eaten at the AAA level and potentially MLB level should he stay. But that's among the bigger pitching names that are available by December 6th. So Ramirez will get that spot in the roster. The Mets currently have 33 roster spots filled out of the 40-man, so there's plenty of work to be done, and they will be filling all those spots and then some. And which gets us into finding out about Mr. Murphy. Now, if you guys don't know, Penn Murphy, who the Mets just signed over the past 2 weeks, picked him up as a waiver claim from the Seattle Mariners, has now been claimed by, the Atlanta Braves. It's hilarious. We did a video on Penn Murphy, and I said in the video how while this guy's not going to be pitching for the next year because he got TJ, definitely more of a long-term pickup where he has multiple years of control, nasty slider, ridiculous sweeper, Adam Ottavino-esque, and you like this big brain move for the Mets once he's available for the down the stretch potentially of 2024 and then 2025, 2026, 2027, etc. Well, I also did note that there's a realistic possibility the Mets just drop him because they don't want him on the roster. Same thing that Seattle did because they're going to prioritize guys that can impact them more now. And while I didn't see any news of the Mets putting Penn Murphy on waivers, that went really under the radar unless you were following, say, transactions on MLB.com. We did find out that the Braves picked him up today. So Penn Murphy, thank you so much for your service. Wishing you, I don't want to say I'm wishing you all the best in Atlanta, but good luck. I hope your rehab goes well. So an arm that looked like it would have been a creative pickup for the Mets for a year plus from now is no longer in the organization. And I'm not losing any sleep over it because while I did like the pickup of Penn Murphy, I made note that if the Mets drop him because they just don't want him on the roster and they want to fill it with a guy that can have immediate impact, no harm in that whatsoever. So that is the situation that we are now in. So Penn Murphy, while it was a fun discussion at the time and definitely a guy that is uber talented when healthy, he's not going to be part of the Mets organization anymore. And now let's see what happens with him in Atlanta a year plus from now. K-Mets, how you doing? Been a while, my friend. Yes, it has. Hope you are doing fantastic. As a lifelong Mets fan, says Dominic, I would love nothing more than to have Willie back. Love that, Dominic. Thank you so much. Our friend, thank you so much for $2. Says screw Shohei, Soto and Mets, Nola and Yoshi. Nola is most certainly not happening. Well, again, and the simple answer to that is, and that's why I didn't have Nola in my free agent video yesterday. A little spoiler in case you didn't see it yet. Did not talk about Aaron Nola because he has a QO attached to him, and the Mets are going to be turned off from parting ways with a first-round draft pick, and I don't blame them at all. And I think that they can go perfectly fine without signing Nola this offseason, even if Aaron stays in the NL East with either the Phillies or with a team that is pursuing plenty pitching, including him, the Atlanta Braves. Yamamoto not coming, but Willie is? I don't know about that one. And that leads us into the Yamamoto discussion. Who is the Mets' number one priority? Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Yoshi. Okay? This guy is exactly what the Mets not only need, not only want, but just everything you're looking for in a starter. He is the best starter available in the market. He's better than Aaron Nola. He's better than Blake Snell. He's better than Jordan Montgomery when discussing ceiling, potential. He has all this at the young age of 25. Dominated the MPB for multiple years. Looked phenomenal in his final playoff start. Striking out everyone and their mother and their sister and their brother and your father. And if you know, you know from yesterday's video. Yamamoto is someone that the Mets are absolutely not only involved with, but will be one of, if not the heaviest player for him amongst many teams, including the Giants, the Yankees, etc. this offseason. Now, one thing that definitely played into the Mets' favor today that I'm going to talk more at length Thursday night, as there will be a new show. Yes, you heard that correctly, folks. A new show is unveiling on the WardyNYM YouTube channel. As of now, the goal is to go live this Thursday, barring any changes from, say, breaking news or just schedule change. That goal is for it to start this week. A new show is coming your way, and we will be highlighting Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Brian Cashman's comments specifically in that show. But I do want to highlight it just briefly here because it is, at the end of the day, latest news and rumors. We've all seen it, so we have to discuss it. Brian Cashman is an unhinged man this offseason. He simply doesn't give a shit anymore. He's going out at media. He has nothing to hold back right now, and I don't know if this is because of his, disgust with himself, looking in the mirror every day, knowing that he's been the GM and the face of the Yanks for the past 2 decades and, hasn't had much success over the past decade, when you've seen the gaping holes and issues with this team over the past 4 or 5 years, yet you continue to not address them. But no, let's go out and out the media for this, right? Then he goes on to shit talk Giancarlo Stanton, saying how, the guy's always going to be hurt. We're prepared because him being hurt is part of his game. Well, his agent, that being Giancarlo, didn't take a liking to that. And the upside to him not taking a liking to that, and maybe the lack of potential appeal when landing in the Bronx, because you need to be tough skinned basically, because you're even going to get out in the offseason, referencing Cashman's comments here, is that he's also the agent of one Edwin Diaz and one Kodai Senga and one Yoshinobu Yamamoto. That is exciting, okay? What does that tell us? That tells us that the Mets may already have themselves an upper hand in this front. Now, of course, to be continued, the Yanks have long loved Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Brian Cashman was in attendance for a Yamamoto no-hitter this year, clapping, smiling cheek to cheek. They want him desperately, but so do the Mets. And what do the Mets have more than the Yanks? It's money. And if it comes down to money, that is what it's going to come down to, and hopefully it lands in the Mets' favor. If the Yamamoto's heart is set on the Yanks because he grew up a diehard Yanks fan, then that is out of the Mets' jurisdiction because their hands are tied. They can't do anything. If Yamamoto is simply like, I've always wanted to be a Yankee, I'm going to go here. This has been a dream come true for me. I might be mad at it, but I can't say like, okay, screw this guy. I get it, especially if he grew up idolizing the Yanks. To what degree, I'm certainly not sure. I don't even know how truthful that is. But of course, when you think of Major League Baseball outside of the States, you start with the Yankees because of how storied of an organization they are, but more importantly, because everyone wears a Yanks hat and only, less than half of them know that it stands for the New York Yankees. I digress. So that's the latest on the Yoshinobu Yamamoto front. The Mets really want him. The Yanks really want him. And Brian Cashman may have just screwed himself a little bit here with his latest remarks regarding Giancarlo Stanton because of how it may impact other people like Yoshinobu Yamamoto while working with the same agent. It's a really interesting situation. It's a funny one. And I'm excited to deep dive it more and be a little bit more raw and unfiltered when discussing this, which is what we'll be doing with our new show that will be debuting this week. Cannot wait to unroll that new show for you all. So we talked about Yamamoto. Now let's get into Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani's going to be a Brave. Shohei Ohtani's going to sign a short-term contract. Shohei Ohtani's going to be this. Shut up. Stop it. Sit down. Go in the corner. Time out. That's what I'm saying. All this nonsense in the media that we're finding out. Okay? Are the Mets going to land Shohei Ohtani? I do not think it is going to happen greater than, say, Yamamoto. I think that the Mets are not in as good of a position as at least two other clubs to land Ohtani, even with the amount of money that they have. That is currently how I feel. However, Ohtani, while he may be prioritizing winning, this is a tale as old as time. If Shohei Ohtani signs a short-term contract with any team where it's just short-term and there's not all these ridiculous clauses to make it go so much longer, options, then I will be dumbfounded. Every single year when there was a top free agent out there that is most definitely going to get a long-term deal, what do they always say? What's always leaked from their agent? Oh, they're willing to sign a shorter-term deal. What does that do? That opens the market for every team. Even if you're spending north of $50 million a year on, say, like a 3-4 year contract, that's still far more digestible than spending over $500 million over the next decade for teams, right? So while there's a belief that, of course, Ohtani wants to go to a team that will be competitive and have a greater chance at winning than those schmucks over there in the Halos, you still want to be in a position for Ohtani where you're making the most money. And how can you help drive the price? It's by getting as many clubs involved as possible, including smaller market clubs. I can assure you that there's almost no chance in hell, and I'm going to stand by that right now, that Ohtani signs a short-term deal. We'll see what happens. Oh, he might have interest in the Braves. Okay. The Atlanta Braves would love to sign him to a decade-long deal of $10 million while donating half that contract to the Braves Foundation, you know? And for the Braves to expand a little bit further on that, call me crazy, but I don't think it's in the Braves' best interest to even land an Ohtani. Of course, if they landed him, it would make them easily the best team on paper, but we've learned that the best team on paper does not equate success at the playoff level. It does not guarantee championships. And for a Braves team that has done so unbelievably well, building a formula year after year of having sustained continued success by developing their players so great, by doing fantastic with international scouting, even though that they did illegally with the likes of Acuna and Ozzy Albies. Making sure you're signing guys that maybe are hometown native guys that you acquire, and the Matt Olsons, right? For example, and getting them on strong contracts, but favorable ones. Everything that the Braves have built to this point would be completely altered, and it would go completely against the Braves' way by shelling out that money. Does anyone really believe that the Braves are going to sit here and throw the biggest bag out for Shohei? No. Not whatsoever. Doesn't mean they can't be involved. They definitely heavily pursued Carlos Correa 2 off seasons ago, and they were in on Bryce Harper prior to him signing with the Phillies. They were involved in those markets, but they were not able to give the biggest bag. Now, what is going to be the biggest priority for Ohtani? It will be money. Will it be playoff success and money? Those are all great questions we have. But to suggest that, oh my goodness, Ohtani's 100% an Atlanta Brave now, or that he's 100% going to sign a short-term contract, in my opinion, is nonsense until proven otherwise. So again, if he does sign a short-term deal, and if he does sign it, especially with the Braves, will that stay? Of course it will. But we'll worry about that should the time come. Rest assured, there's a lot of rumblings with Ohtani that will continue to be coming out, including Buster Olney. Was it Buster? Was it? No, Bob Nightingale saying that the Mets basically have no shot at Ohtani. That too is nonsense, Bob. You're the same one that told me that Trevor Bauer was a New York Met. What happened? I thought that was happening. I was live on my live show freaking out thinking that Trevor Bauer was going to be a New York Met. Thank God that didn't happen in hindsight, looking back over the past couple years. Point being is, you can't be believing every single thing you're hearing. And of course, we're going to acknowledge it. And of course, I'm not going to sit here and say that the Mets have the best odds at Ohtani, because I do not believe that they do. And I haven't felt for a number of months that they've had. Aside from Cohen's money, how many other things, aside also from Kodai Senga in the big market, are appealing for Shohei to be even on the East Coast still, let alone with the Mets, who are, again, enduring another offseason where you have a complete change around, complete turmoil from front office down. There's a lot of reasons to say that the Mets aren't as appealing as the Dodgers. The Mets aren't as appealing as the Giants even, because staying out west, knowing that they're like a big piece that they're looking to add that they didn't add this past year. There's a lot of arguments to be had, and understandably so. But I think something we should do as fans is just remind ourselves that what is being reported, even if it's accurate, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be truthful. It doesn't mean it's going to be the reality of the situation. We have learned that, I feel, more than any other fan base since we started the WardyNYM YouTube channel, and what to believe versus what not to believe. And just knowing that at the end of the day, a lot of this stuff, to an extent, is a coin flip. Even when you know what you found out is true, doesn't mean anything's guaranteed. We learned that even with Correa. Even when that shit, until it's pen and paper, we don't know nothing. We really don't. So that is what I will leave you with on the Ohtani front. I love Shohei. He is the face of baseball. I would cry. I would sit here on stream and cry with tears of joy for at least an hour or two just discussing Shohei, should that signing happen. But as we currently stand, the Mets have hurdles. They have money, but they have hurdles. And that's why when evaluating all the free agents out there, the money that the Mets are willing to work with, you have an understanding as to why Yoshinobu Yamamoto is a guy that, as of now, between the two, feels far more likely to happen until proven otherwise. I could see David Wright as a third base coach. I could not, Martin. David doesn't have interest in me with the Mets right now in a coaching staff role. He doesn't. He's made that known over the past number of years. So, don't see that happening. And for David, with his background, he's not a guy, maybe he could start out as a third base coach and move up from there. But I think it would even start potentially. I'm going to refrain. I don't know what I was going to say with that one. I was going to say maybe he should be better off starting in the minor leagues, but who knows if he even has interest in something like that. So. Wardy, let's get Yamamoto and Yariel Rodriguez and throw in Imanaga. And we said the Mets are not going to get 3 pitchers that are coming over from the MPB, or for Yariel's case, really coming over from he was pitching the DR this year, just training basically post World Baseball Classic, because he didn't go back to Cuba and he wasn't in the MPB anymore. No, the Mets aren't going to land more than 1, in my opinion. I don't think that's going to happen. Because if, say, the Mets got both a Yamamoto and, say, Imanaga, that'd be sick. But you still have hurdles with that rotation then, right? Okay, your top 3, all Japanese, would be amazing. I'm not going to lie. I love that idea. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, what I saying, Shota Imanaga as your 1, 2, 3. Don't complaining. I mean, dude, we can be playing Tokyo Drift on repeat the entire time at Citi Field for all I care. It will not matter to me as long as the guys are balling out with their pitches. I'm sure that they would be. However, bringing in not 1 but 2 guys that don't have MLB experience is not only a risk, but it changes the direction of your rotation, because by bringing Yamamoto, you already know you need a 6-man rotation again for this upcoming year. You bring in Imanaga, that creates another hurdle as you're trying to get them all familiar at the MLB level and understanding to pitch every 4 or 5 days versus what they're accustomed to, which is around once a week there in the MPB. Those circumstances are different. So for that alone, on top of the obvious of just, there's going to be teams that want pitching, while the Mets would love all these guys, they're not going to land all of them. I just don't see it happening. At least 1, though, I for sure could see happening. Why do we let go of Murphy? Clearly, the Mets just didn't want to put him on the 40-man because they have more moves that they need to do and probably are viewing those as more important. I bet they picked up Murphy and were saying, hey, if we get things shaked out with our roster and we think that there's space for you, then we 100% are happy to bring you aboard. But they probably came to the quick realization that that's not the case for the direction that they're going this offseason, which is what led them to parting with them. Apparently that the only way to comment is to pay. Justin, you're in luck. All you have to do is comment like you just did. So I don't know what you're referring to. Also, Justin, would be nice if we got a positive comment out of you every once in a while. You stay being one of those schmucks that's always negative Nancy in the comments section in my videos. I know who you are. And don't take it personal, Justin. I'm not mad at you or anything like that. It's funny. I recognize the names. I recognize the faces. We may have over 23,000 subscribers. We may have over 400 current viewers. And this live show will likely get a good amount of viewership over the next number of days. But I pay attention. I'm aware of who many of you guys are. And I'm grateful for all of you. Good, bad, indifferent. Doesn't matter. I asked you before, did you go and get married? It looks like a wedding ring on your finger. No, I wear this finger. Truthfully, I really, really like wearing a ring on my wedding finger. I put this on my pointer finger that you'll see in videos too. It's a very satisfying feeling. I actually got this ring from literally like a pawn shop on vacation a number of years ago. And I'll wear it from time to time. I'll even have it on this hand too. No, I'm not married. Am I in a relationship? Yes, but I'm not married. Let's see. Justin is not an illusion. That's funny. That is pretty funny. Let's see. Did I miss anything? No, I think I pretty much have answered everything. So, guys, we're going to be wrapping things up in the next couple minutes. But before I get out of here, I do want to take the next 5 minutes to answer your comments, questions, and concerns. So whatever you have, whatever questions you have, rapid fire them to me right now. And I will answer as many as I can over the next 5 minutes. And again, thank you to everyone that is first chiming in, watching live on a replay. And thank you so much for smashing those buttons to help us get so close to our next short-term goal at 25,000 subscribers. Also, stay tuned. Like I said, consistent coverage of Mets all week long. A new live show will be debuting this week too, which I'm really excited to get into. So just stay tuned, folks. Awesome things coming. And thank you so much to everyone that's checked out the previous content to this point. What is my preferred starting rotation? Preferred and realistic are two different things, but I'll go with preferred for the sake of discussion. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, number 1. Kodai Senga, number 2. Jordan Montgomery, number 3. I really like Monty, and he impressed the hell out of me in playoffs this year. I don't think he's even going to leave the Rangers, but there's any potential. Really like Monty. Number 4, Jose Quintana. Number 5, that can be another starter that they pick up. That could be via trade. It could be. I don't want to give too much because we do have a trade video that will be coming out over the next week or so. Could even be in the next couple of days. I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to come out with it yet. But a Tyler Glass now, a Lucas Giolito. I could easily see one of those two in this rotation for this upcoming year. And then beyond that, you look at the McGills, etc., as part of that 6-man, should you not add more externally. The Mets are going to add at minimum 2 stars this offseason. Very well could add 3. And I think after losing Peterson, there's a heavy emphasis to add 3. Even if that third is just very much more so a number 5/number 6 starter, just a guy that can come in and eat innings for you when needed is important. Bubbles, your super chat. If you super chat, let me go back. There we go, Bubbles. Let's see. Love this show, Wardy. What is my realistic dream off season? Thank you so much for the donation, brother. My realistic dream off season. So being a realist while also being dreamy is a hard thing to do, but I'll try to combine it the best way I can. Realistic dream off season is Yoshinobu Yamamoto. It is Teoscar Hernandez. It is Stevenson from the Pirates for the bullpen. It is plenty of other bullpen arms. I can't list them all now because there's just so much, and I have to do whole separate content regarding that, and I don't want to dabble in it too much right now because I don't want to misspeak at this point in time. Monty, Glass now, Ursis, Am Duvall. I don't know, man. I gotta be honest, because this free agent class is very top heavy. It's not like it's been in years past where I want like every bat. You know what I mean? Nor do I expect the Mets to really be heavy in the offensive category in the free agent market. It may be more of a situation in the trade market actually this offseason that we could see that happening. But those are just the first names that kind of come to mind, which is similar to what I just said here. David Robertson absolutely would love a reunion, Kevin. Yes, and we will be discussing more on him soon on the channel. Blake Snell's an absolute stud, but if the Mets do it, I'll be excited, but I'll be cautiously optimistic. I'm not in love with the idea of signing Blake Snell to a 7+ year contract. I'm really not. I have my concerns with how that'll age. I also think that with how free agents are going to be coming out over the next couple of years for rotation, there's options I feel like I'm going to enjoy more. Blake Snell was an amazing pitcher this year. Absolutely phenomenal. And he's going to get a bag, rightfully so. But just because he had a great year and has a strong track record, given where he's at in his career, knowing the type of pitcher that he is, I don't know. There's something about Blake Snell, mainly the long-term aspect that I don't love. If we're talking 5-year deal, sign me up. All for Blake Snell. But he's not going to sign a 5-year deal. It's going to be at least 7 most likely. And that's a bit of a turnoff for me. And if I'm being frank, there's no starter that I want more, even remotely close to, than Yoshinobu Yamamoto's this offseason. And should the Mets land Yamamoto, that would be their big starter they land. So I would not foresee a world where they also would land a Snell. Montgomery, I think, would even be far-fetched at that point, too. But if you can land Yamamoto, man, oh man, would that do wonders. People need to understand that Blake Snell is going to want a Carlos Rodon contract. Okay? If not more. So just be prepared for that. Okay? Especially with how top heavy this pitching market's going to be. He's going to get back. Calling it right now. Blake Snell, if he stays in the NL, he's going to be a Chicago Cub. That's what I'm calling. Right now. Justin, thank you so much for a $5 haul. Robert, I will get to your... Actually, Robert, let me get to your super if I missed it. Okay, Robert, your turn, my man. Hear me out. Secure Senga, Yamamoto, Imanaga, and Ohtani. Rebrand the team as a Japanese-American team. Increase sales to the Asian-American pot. Bam. Okay, I like the way you think, Robert. I do. And hey, Flushing, Queens is the highest populated area of Asian descent, if I'm not mistaken, in all the country. So, Kodai Senga's having a great time. Yamamoto, I'm sure, would have a great time. Shohei can be the face of New York. You know, it's crazy how Shohei is the face of baseball, yet the media is so shit there while he's still in Cali with the Angels. Even if he was with the Dodgers, I don't know. They're just the hype. It would be crazy, but still, it's not the same because there's so many fair weather fans. So many. The vibe would be different in New York. The pressure would be surreal. The excitement would be like no other. The marketing would be off the charts. The sponsorship deals would be through the effing roof. Yes, taxation is a bitch, and it does not help the Mets' chances here in landing Ohtani, but all those other factors are appealing. And yeah, I would be all in favor of the Japanese squad. Because it's not like that you're just bringing guys because they're Japanese. You're bringing them in because they're really, really talented. And we've seen the success that Kodai Senga can have. So if other guys can either have similar, if not better success, how can you not want that as a fan, right? I know Bauer went through some stuff, says Justin, but it seems to be behind him. Why not take a one-year flyer? Exact reason why I've said in the past, he will be a headache for this Metropolitan team. The Mets were done with Trevor Bauer when they lost the sweepstakes a couple years ago. I do not foresee a world where they land him. Trevor is most likely, in his best interest, wanting to go to a smaller market team. I think returning where he started his career in Arizona with the Diamondbacks, where he currently lives, mind you, would be really, really smart. For him, for the Diamondbacks, for everyone involved. So, Trevor, while I don't have anything personal against him, he's not someone that I think is best for the Mets here. And on a short-term deal, why do it? Why do it? When the whole purpose of what the Mets are trying to do here, what their offseason is build beyond 2024, right? You're trying to do that and you want to land star pitching, talented pitching. You want to lock up guys on multi-year deals. I'm not interested. I don't want Trevor Bauer. I don't. I don't think it'll be good for the team. I think it'll cause a headache. I think it'll be an unnecessary distraction at times. And it's those little things that can make a big difference. Because while Bauer, say what you will about him, he is still someone that has a very vocalized personality and does not hold back. He is raw. He's unfiltered. And while that is fine, it doesn't mean it's going to be fine in a New York market with the Mets, in which the media is doing all they can to chomp at the bit to find one negative thing to make them the latest LOL Mets scandal. And we very well could see that happen with Bauer, should they land him. So, kiss that idea out the door. No, thank you. With that being said, everybody, I'm going to wrap things up in a minute. How would you feel if Carlos Beltran became GM next year? It's not going to happen, Rob. I mean, I shouldn't say it's not going to happen. I'd be very surprised. I have a feeling David Stearns might be at the helm controlling everything for a bit, especially if he has a successful offseason. And so far, it looks like we're off to a good start. Jun-Hoo Lee is a very talented Korean outfielder set to hit the bigs. That is far and away the best player coming over from the KBO this offseason. However, Jun-Hoo Lee, why I do not foresee him landing with the Mets is because he's more of a slap hitter, a contact guy, and someone that is really not going to be fitting the bill what the Mets are likely looking for this offseason and in the years going forward. So, great talent, lots to like there. I just don't necessarily know if I see that fit there with the Mets. So, for that reason, I'm going to say no on Jun-Hoo Lee. Very talented, though. Do not get me wrong. Watch his YouTube comment. He seems like no, it's not about if Bauer's an okay guy or not. That's not what this is about. It's about everything else that he brings. And let's not forget the Mets already tried to do this a couple years ago, and the Mets were embarrassed after looking like they landed him to not land him. I mean, literally, it was a ridiculous situation. I want no part of it again. No, thank you. But guys, that's going to do it for the live show. Thank you. Almost 3-year anniversary. You said it, James. Thank you for the endless support. Really does mean a lot. Stay tuned for consistent coverage. Stay tuned for the new live show coming out. Until then, this is your boy Wardy signing out. Our 3rd edition of the latest Mets news and rumors. 4th edition will likely be coming out either later this